so it's offered for a time period for CBC patients, and we're very excited to now be going to this area, the north coast of New South Wales, to see if we can get any practices that are interested. And we're looking at around 300 veterans nationally. The trial finishes at the end of June next year, so we've got just over a year that we're wanting to
enroll many.
Yes, we have. We enrolled. No, not at all actually. No, we've the trial began being linked to the NBN, and so we originally had Coffs Harbour as our area that we wanted to start from because the NBN was to be rolled out from there, and then we've got good veteran numbers there. We found that the NBN was a little bit delayed, so we started in Armidale, and then we've got some patients on from Armidale, a couple of practices. We've now moved to Toowoomba in the Darling Downs region in Queensland, and we're getting good take up there, and now we've come here. So originally we were just looking at Coffs Harbour, but now we're going right up and down the coast. So anyway, I won't keep on talking because what you want to see is what the equipment does, and our colleagues from Tunstall, Lisa and Ruth, can show you exactly what the veteran sees here and then what you will see in your practice.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm Lisa. I'm the project manager for the DVA in-home telemonitoring trial, and Ruth is our clinical services manager. So she's in charge of running our telemonitoring programs in Australia. So some of you might be a bit more familiar with Tunstall through the RAT program because we are a medical alarm provider under the RAT program, so you might have clients who have one of our buttons in their homes. We've been around for about 56 years in the arena of telecare and medical alarms, and in more recent times we've moved into the arena of telehealth or remote vital sign monitoring. So we were selected to be the equipment and service provider for the telemonitoring trial for DVA, and part of our responsibility for that program is to provide the equipment for the veterans, and that's based on the referral from your clinic to Tunstall based on the care plan that you've developed for the veteran and what kind of program you think would be suitable for them, whether it's the COPD program or the heart failure program or diabetes or a combination of those. And we'll then develop a health interview and equipment that is suitable for that individual veteran. We then coordinate with the veteran about installing the equipment in the home, and we also coordinate the internet connection for them. So they don't pay anything for this at all. We cover the cost of the installation, the equipment and the internet service. So if they're fortunate enough to be somewhere where they have an NBN box in their home, we'll provision a telehealth port for them on the NBN. We pay for the service. If they don't, we'll provide a 4G or 3G wireless dongle, and if that's not suitable for them, we can also commission an ADSL connection for them in their home. Our installer then goes into the home, takes the equipment in, installs it, tests it, makes sure it's all working fine, and then spends time training the veteran on how to use the equipment. And also their carers. You know, sometimes the carers are really important for that moral support, and sometimes they actually need a little bit of support using the equipment. So carers are just as important sometimes. Our installer won't leave that home until they're pretty confident that that veteran is capable of doing a couple of interviews all on their own. And then we have a follow-up process. So in Brisbane we have our clinical services team that Ruth manages, who provide the support monitoring service or the co-monitoring service for the program. And they'll follow up with the veterans and make sure that they're comfortable with using the equipment, particularly in the first couple of weeks. It can be a little bit, a bit daunting sometimes for veterans to have all this new stuff in their home they've got to remember, So it's our responsibility to make sure that they're comfortable and confident in using the system and the equipment, and our team are pretty good at troubleshooting over the phone and also by video conferencing if they're having a bit of trouble using the equipment. However, saying that, some of you might be looking at this and going, oh, some of our veterans don't have a computer, they don't even have a mobile phone, they won't be able to use this. If they can use an ATM, they can pretty much use this. It's really simple to use. It's touch screen. there's not too much that they can do to it to stuff it up, basically. And if they accidentally switch it off or do something, our team are really good at talking them through how to get it going again. But it is very easy to use, and we have a 95% compliance rate. And most of the people we have on the program using our kind of technology are well into their 80s. So, you know, pretty good success rate there.
Is there anything else, like the number of programs?
No, for this trial it's locked down. You might be familiar with some other programs that have been run in the area where they enable social engagement and they have access to Facebook and Skype and a few other things. And some of those are actually using our system, but they have it set up a different way. So how it's set up for the DVA program is very specific and it's locked down. They do have some access to things on the internet, but it's restricted to what DVA want them to see. So, and we don't have Skype, but we do have a secure video conferencing system that's linked to this, which the clinicians can use. And in fact, if they wanted to, we could conference in a family member into a video conference. So the capability is there to do that. So just briefly explaining how the veteran operates the system. They have the tablet. We also provide an internet camera, which they can attach and they can move around. So you can use this to view wounds or for medication compliance if you want to check on the medication or anything like that. It's a self-focusing camera. Primarily the buttons they mainly use are this big red button in the middle and the video conferencing button. So the My Clinic button, they simply touch to run their interview and it will connect with our website. It will check that if there's any updates. So this is a really flexible system. If something changes with the veteran, you want to add something to their health interview or to their program, you can do that and the system will check and update that each time the veteran logs in to see if there's any changes. Okay. Now, does someone want to come up and run the interview? See how easy it is? Do I have a volunteer from the audience? Yay, Karen. Okay, so all you have to do is follow the prompts. Let's see. So normally they would only have one, maybe two interviews. This is our demonstration unit, so we've got multiple interviews here. So you can choose one to run.
Please measure your blood glucose.
No, that's okay. I'll do a test. We're not going to be drawing blood, but we're rather fond of doing that. So watch out.
I'll get the knife.
Hold on, wait,
No, that's okay. We'll show you.
Okay,
We've got
all of the peripherals are Bluetooth, and this is the glucometer that we use. It's a MyGluco health glucometer. So the strips, it works very similar to any other glucometer other than the fact that it has a Bluetooth radio in it so that it transmits everything automatically. So when we put the strip in, it comes up with the code which you match with the side of the bottle. We've got some test solution here. So this is my blood, I pricked my finger. It's even red.
She does have blood.
Well, she proves she had a heart.
Okay, so that reading says 6.5. Okay, it's a non-touch technique to eject the strip, and that turns the glucometer off, which is what we want. We want it to be a blank screen to transmit, and we press the up arrow, and that will transmit.
Your glucose reading is 6
Yes.
point.
So
And the
all
last sets.
So all the consumables we provide, if there's batteries for any of the devices, we provide those, and we have a quarterly program where we send batteries out for that.
Please record your ECG reading.
Okay. ECG. This is your ECG. It's a 1 lead ECG. It records lead 2. So this comes with a lanyard, and the patient can actually take this out. So if they have AF and they have ectopics while they're out and about sometimes, and you can never catch it, they can actually either put this in their pocket if they're a guy, put it in their handbag if they're a woman, or wear it around their neck. It's tiny, hey, but you wouldn't even know that it was there. So what happens is, when they're out and about and they're doing their bowling or they're having their hair done and they think, oh geez, I'm having a bit of a funny moment here, they take this out, they put it on their skin, and they press the record button. And they don't talk, and they don't move. And it takes about 40 seconds. I've actually got it in the wrong place. I should have it in the wrong place. It'll make it when it's done. Oh no, we're going to get an artifact now. It's going up
It's
there.
French one. It's French.
Yes, that's this patient. That's this patient.
That was joking.
Yeah. So once they've recorded, they press the send button. So they won't see the ECG, so the patient doesn't actually see the ECG. The ECG gets uploaded onto the website, and I'll show you that in a second. And then it downloads as a PDF. You
Your
can save that.
ECG reading has been received.
So when they get back home, as I said, they just download it as part of their interview.
That's awesome. I want one of those on myself.
Please use your pulse oximeter.
So the pulse oximeter is the same as you put
Oh,
on the
yes,
arm.
we got to do this one.
And again, the only difference is it's got a Bluetooth radio. So if you've got patients that you have to hold their hands up to get a good oximetry in your practice, you will have to do the same. We will have to teach them to do that when
Your
we do the
SpO2
installation.
reading is 99 and pulse 77. Please measure your blood pressure.
So when we do the blood pressure again, during the installation with the patient, we fit the cuff to the patient's arm. So we have a large, medium and a small cuff. So when you go and you do the referral and you check the patient, you know your patient's better than we do. You can tell us on the referral form whether you think you need a large or a small cuff. The medium comes as standard. So we train the patient usually we just slip it on. So we train the patient how to use it. They're usually quite good at this because they've had it done so many times in the surgeries, or if they're frequent flyers, they'll have had it done in hospital quite a lot. And we fit the cuff to their arm so that they can just slip it up and down. Turn it on. And wait. So again, because the patients are used to doing a lot of this stuff already, this bit doesn't freak them out. They're usually doing it during the installation, even the first time they've seen it. They're usually grabbing the equipment and putting it on and trying it out already. It really is quite fascinating to see these people that, when they see the tablet, they go, I haven't got a computer, I can't do this. And then they see the blood pressure machine, oh, but I can do that, and they're putting it on, and oh yeah, that's what I use in hospital, one of these things, and so, yeah, press. There we go. So they really, they
Your
love
blood
to
pressure
take
is
part in their care.
100
Sometimes it's the only thing that they can actually do on their
over
own.
80 and pulse 83.
So if they don't want that reading, just for instance, just for instance, if they are in front of somebody and they've got a bit of stage fright and it's put their blood pressure up, they can press the retake button. So just like So if they've come in from, I don't know, hanging their washing out on the line, and they think, oh geez, I've got to do my readings, and they rush up the stairs and they sit down and they do the readings and their blood pressure's a bit high, and they think, oh, that's not right, it shouldn't be that high, they can retake it and it will overwrite the other reading and it will just upload the new reading. Okay? Yeah.
Please step on the scale.
So, we haven't brought a scale because nobody ever likes that.
You can put in a number that you want.
60.
Oh, a bit lower than you, Wayne.
Sorry?
A bit lower than you.
Oh.
So once the vital signs have been taken, then it goes in to start to delve into how the patient's actually feeling on this particular day. So obviously, if you're doing readings every day, the patient might be feeling different each day.
Worse.
If they press the worst button, it takes them down and asks more questions about how they're feeling. if they press better or the same, it actually takes them out of their interview quicker, because you don't want them answering questions about how ill they are
Were you
if they're
short
not
of
feeling ill.
breath during the night? No. Please remember to take your medication as prescribed and to keep your legs and feet elevated while sitting. Thank you. Are your blood sugars within your targets? No. Are you following your diet? No. Would you like to discuss making recommended changes to your diet? No. Continue taking your medications as prescribed and contact your nurse or GP if your condition worsens.
So every time the patient answers one of those bad answers to the questions, it actually highlights and becomes a red reading on our system. So you can see those red readings. And even if their vital signs are all okay, if the patient presses that they're feeling worse, if they're short of breath, if their blood sugars are not within their targets that they think are targets, that will highlight and it will come up as a red reading. Okay, and you just quickly saw there before Lisa decided to start fiddling with the notifications.
So when it does the vital signs, does it ask everyone to do the same thing?
No, it's tailor-made for each patient and to each chronic disease. So if they've got COPD, they won't be asking about an ECG. You can also message a patient. So as part of the video conferencing portal, on a day like today when it's been really hot, you can actually message your patient and say, hey, look, just make sure you drink some water. You can message all of them at the same time with the same notification if you want to. So if you wanted to do, for all your diabetic patients maybe, for all your diabetic veterans, if you wanted to do a masterclass about healthy eating, I don't know, something like that, you could actually say, we're having a masterclass on healthy eating next Wednesday, 6 p.m, would you like to come? Call the surgery if you want to make an appointment to come. So there's all sorts of things you can do with that messaging. If they can't answer back, they would have to call the surgery. But it's a way that you can contact them. And it downloads a separate thing there on the back end so that you can see whether they've read that notification. Motivational messages and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Say that one. Or it could be, it's lovely for spinach in season, eat more greens. So there's all sorts of different ways you can use it. And you're only limited by your imagination. We have a vivid imagination.
As you can see by Luke Skywalker in Florence.
You can also tell how old the people are. You set up the
Okay, so I'm very sorry about the names of these patients. Obviously, they're real patients. So this is what you would see when you log on in your surgery. This is not a special login, but this is just a. So this is what you would see. You can see that the patients with the red readings are automatically flipped to the top of that list. So those red bubbles are the high risk patients. The one at the top, Clarice Starling, she's got 7 vital signs that are outside of her normal limits. Now, her normal limits are not the same as Luke Skywalker's normal limits. They can be set according to your wishes, the GP's, and whatever the patient may think as well, maybe, if you want to involve them in that sort of part of their care. Anyway. And that can be changed along the way, that once you've set them, they're not set in stone, you can change them at any time during their trial. The next shows you how many questions that they've answered that have got high alert limits on them. So obviously this patient's done 7 interviews. We've got 7 interviews here that we've been doing during the day, and I've not gone through it and acknowledged them. So there are 7 readings there that need to be looked at. We would suggest that the nurse or the GP, if the GP wants to be involved, actually checks this website every day and checks their patients every day if they're doing their readings every day. Because obviously if you've got somebody that's got a really high blood pressure or a really low blood pressure or whatever, that patient needs to have some sort of care and attention almost straight away. And as much as we say, please, this does not take the place of any emergency advice, any emergency precautions that they may usually use, or any emergency procedures that they would normally take. If they're feeling ill, they still call 000, or they press their home alarm, or they bang on the next door neighbour to bring them in. Whatever they would normally do in the case of an emergency, they still do that, and that we enforce that right from now when we're doing these overviews. right the way through to actually speaking to the patient in the home, and ongoing when we do anything else as well in interventions. So, if I scroll down, so you can see here I'm just acknowledging some important notes. Important notes are written here. This is my team who've done it. This is the sort of thing that we would write. Rabies status.
I've been bitten by a bat.
It does happen in Queensland. I don't know. Oops. So yeah, that's the sort of thing that we expect to write. These are clinical notes. They can be held in the court of law, and they can be copied and pasted onto your normal notes within your practice if you want to do that.
Go the other way.
Yes. So I'll just scroll down there. So you can see here, this is what we've just done. You can see here that it's got today's date and the time, what interview it was, and these are all the readings. So, patient's got a red reading on a 99%. I think that must be a bit of an error. Somebody's been fiddling about with the alert limits.
So, excuse me, if that was really dangerous, would that ever say you need to be 0?
We can put that on there. It does say please call your GP or nurse. Yeah, but again, it's reiterated right from the time that the patient is installed, and it's reiterated with you guys as the nurses and the GP practices to actually enforce that as well. And if you have an intervention with your veteran, you need to say, hey, look, if you're feeling worse, then you need to call 000. That does happen. You get to a point sometimes where the patients, they're slightly, you're not quite sure. Should we call 000? Maybe they'll be all right in half an hour, and I'll call you back in half an hour. If you feel worse within that time, then you tell them to call 000. Whatever your process is, and this is something that you as practices have to put into place. You have to set up your escalation process, and what you do with that information and how you follow up with that is yours to own. Okay. So. You can see there's another red reading there, and these are the answers to the questions that we've answered. If you want to see all of the other answers to the questions, you can see that they're there in green. And this is the ECG, so hold your breath. I do have a funny heartbeat. Is it going to? No, it's not going to show it. I might have to do that on mine. Later on, if you want to have a look at it, I've got it on my laptop. So this one hasn't got the software to download it, I've got it on mine. So to acknowledge a reading, this is how long it actually takes just to acknowledge the reading. You go in, you choose a standard note. Okay, so we're arranging a home visit. Oops. If I can spell. Okay, you can save it as important so that anybody else who goes in there, maybe if you've got 2 of you as practice nurses and it's the other person's shift the next day, you can save it as important. You acknowledge. That reading has now disappeared, so this one was one that we did earlier, so the reading that we've just done has disappeared. But you can see that there's an important note there that we've just done. It's saved by my name and the date and the time. So all of the other notes are also saved. If I go into the patient summary, every note, everything that you do on this website is audited. It's got an audit trail with your username and password and the date and the time that you've done anything.
Who accesses that?
You guys and us if we need to at Tunstall, nobody else. Any unidentified data does go to the research team, but it's unidentified. There's no identified branches in there. No name, no address, no telephone, no date of birth.
And
DVA doesn't
stay
stay
with you access.
Well, we will be doing the non-clinical triage. So once we've done the co-monitoring for a little bit so that you in the practice are up to speed with doing these and getting your processes into place for the escalation, then you take over the clinical. So the red and the orange readings that you saw in that top category, you take over that. Everything below that, so the yellow, which is a skipped reading, which means they didn't do their weight, for instance, because they maybe went to the Chinese and they didn't want anybody to know that they've done that, for whatever reason. We follow that up. As nurses at your end, you don't want to be following up why somebody's not actually done their reading. If there's a clinical reason behind why they've not done their reading, so if they're actually they're too ill to actually do their blood pressure, or they're feeling too giddy to stand on the weight scale, we will contact you and let you know about that. If it needs a service call or somebody to go out into the patient's home to sort out that piece of equipment and to troubleshoot, we will arrange that. We will let you know that that's happening so you're in the loop, but you don't have to worry yourselves about that. By email or text or phone or fax, however you want us to contact you, we'll sort that out when we do the training. We usually do it by email.
And phone, if it's
Or if it's real, yeah.
Yeah.
If we notice that something's really very, very dodgy, that we think that as clinicians, that we think that you need to know about, then we will contact the practice. And if you're busy, we'll leave a message with the receptionist. And if you don't call back, then we will keep contacting you or contact one of the other nurses. We'll keep going until we actually know that that patient's okay. And we will often video conference that patient straight away just to make sure that they're actually okay. And if we feel that they need an ambulance, we will call the ambulance for them. So don't ever be afraid that if we can't contact you, but we have a duty of care to look after these patients just like you. We're nurses as well. We've got our registrations to maintain just like you have. And we don't want anybody to be ill either. We want everybody to be feeling well. So if we see something that we think needs urgent attention and an ambulance, we will do that and we'll contact you later. Okay. So as you can see, there's lots of notes going on there. Every time we do something, it actually brings these up. You can show the details of the readings that you've acknowledged, and that can all be copied and pasted into your notes in your GP practice software if you want to be. The other thing you're probably more interested in is the trend reports. Now, these are long-term trend reports. It starts from the day that the patient goes on the system and it finishes the day that the patient comes off the system. You can sort them by week, month, year, or you can just put all of them. So if they're not on if they're on for more than a year, then you can just do over the year as well. Come to the year. The year, it sort of gets a bit screwed up because there's so many readings on there. So you can see where all of these are all mangled together. If I highlight those and it just pulls them out so you can see them. And you can print that off like that. There is a print menu, so you can actually go in there and you can print each individual graph, or you can print the whole lot. You can save it as a PDF and save it to the patient's file. You can send it as an email to a specialist if you want to. You see the red hashed area? They're the red readings, they're the alert limits. So anything in the white area would have been a nice green alert, everything in the red area would have been a red alert. We do have an orange alert, which is like a heads up. So that if you've got somebody whose normal blood pressure is probably, I don't know, 135, say, about, if it got up to maybe 145, you might be thinking, oh, we might need to do something about it, but it's not high enough for me to actually do something urgently. That could be an orange reading up to maybe, I don't know, 155, 160. If it got up to that level, then you'd want to be doing something about it. That would then become a red reading. So you've got that leeway so the orange and the red alerts can sort of stack up and stack down. So it just gives you a head up. And those would be your responsibility to triage. Everything else would be ours. So if you've only got 2 patients, that's as long as it takes, by the time I've done this talk, you've been off doing your other stuff. If you can get hold of the patient and if you know that the patient is okay clinically and is not, hasn't got any signs or symptoms of those that would need an escalation with the GP or a home visit or whatever. So that's a very, 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 very brief overview of what the system is. Very brief. Video conferencing. Video conferencing. So you saw that cleared it. Okay, so this is the portal. So
3 minutes. So then after that.
So drink 3 litres, I know.
Okay. If you insist.
Okay, so let's schedule a video conference with this patient. So which one is it? It's Clarice. So we want to do this video call. We don't want to do it at 7 PM tomorrow night because nobody's going to be around. We probably want to do it at maybe 10 AM. We don't want it for half an hour. We maybe want it for 15 minutes. I'm the provider, so I'm the one that's actually initiating this. However, if I know that I'm not going to be in the office tomorrow, I can give it to somebody else to do. So I can give it to Shauna. So she can then be the provider. she will receive an email as a confirmation to say that this has been booked in her name. When the patient accepts that schedule on the tablet, she will get another email to say that that video conference has been accepted by the patient.
The CEO organise that? Or do you-
Yeah, no, you can do that.
We can also invite other people, so that's where if you wanted to invite a family member who has to live somewhere else, who wants to be involved in that, a discussion. You can put their email address in, or a specialist, or someone else.
Okay, so I'll include Joe. So Joe was my other team member. So I press add to add him to it, and I can invite, I'll put me anyway, just put it there. Okay. Press schedule, or add, and press schedule.
So the cool thing is, if you're not part of this program, but you get sent an email, it has a hyperlink in it, and that hyperlink is live at the actual date and time that it's scheduled for. So you can just click on that, and as long as you have a microphone and you've got an internet camera, like you might have with Skype, you can participate in the video call. You don't need any special software at all. But it's a secure link, and it's only active for the time period of the video conference that it's scheduled for. If it's cancelled, that link never comes live.
So you will work through a browser and explore
Or Firefox or Chrome. So you get that notification that we sent earlier, that we know the patient's ready because it now says red. Okay, so we can expire that, we can get rid of that.
It's back to the browsers.
It sort of does.
Yeah.
There are little, like the scroll bars at the side don't work very well. So there are anomalies with Safari.
Would someone like to accept the video call?
Okay.
So now you'll see that
So that's what the video conference window looks like. There's nobody at the other end, obviously, at the moment. So although this was booked for tomorrow, the lady's just pressed the accept button twice, so it's actually taken into a video conference straight away. Now, if that happened to the patient, and they'd be sitting there going, oh dear, it's very easy just to press the red button there, or they can phone us. There's also, that now says that there's a video conference booked for Wednesday. If you want to book a whole load of them, the first one, so the very next one is always shown there. If they tap this, it actually brings up a whole list of video conferences that the patient may have. So if you want to book one a week, the whole list will be there for the next however many you book for. If they decide that they've now, oh dear, I'm having my hair cut, sorry, I've accepted that and I forgot, I've double booked, they can go into that and they can decline it, and then that will send another email around to everybody on that video conference acceptance to let them know that the patient has now declined that video conference and they will have to schedule another one with that patient. Don't worry about remembering all this. Okay, we're just giving you a very brief overview about what the system can do and how it works. During your training, if you take up this, during your training we will go through it with you. I do a test to make sure you remember it, and your training gets APNA accreditation. So if you do the full training, if you go through it, it's 35 points for your APNA accreditation.
Fantastic. Oh, who gets the tablet once the trial's over?
It comes back to us.
okay, it's a rental. It's rented to the program.
Sorry.
Nice try.
I'll try anything.
Hey look, but there's no reason why your practice, if the trial ends and there's no more funding, there's no reason why your practice can't run with it if you think, yeah, you can run your own. Just saying. Just saying, put it out there.
But as Wayne was saying, in terms of evaluation, we've got evaluators on board, and we really want this trial to work, and we want to collect enough data to prove that this does work. So we hope it doesn't end, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
Now, has anyone got any questions of Ruth and Lisa in relation to how the equipment works, what you will see in practice?
Downloading clinical software is, it doesn't matter which clinical software you
If you're copy and pasting, as long as your software is able to be copied and pasted onto, yeah, that's fine. And obviously the rest of it is PDF or Excel or Microsoft Word. So
if this moves beyond trial phase and we look at having integration into medical director and Barrett and whatever else, the medical practices are using, and also the personally controlled health record. So, but for the trial, we're not doing that.
I guess the question I have, Tracy, is if we've got our 5 patients ready to go, how do we
What do we do?
start it? When's it all going to happen?
Okay, sure. Well, it can happen now. Basically, we're recruiting right now. We actually want to get our practices on board by March or April, so that we get enough data to prove an evaluation that this works. We've got here now. Where is that registration form? No, I've got one over here. Anyway, but make sure that we get a registration form to everybody. Now, your registration form. This. Basically, you fill this out and then fax it back to us as soon as you're ready. You put down all the practice details. You identify the veterans within your practice that you think would be good for the trial. Now, I've given out a few data reports tonight. For those practices that I don't have, we can easily arrange those. I think I've collected details from people. And I've also colour-coded some of those to show you the patients that we think would be probably best suited to the trial on the basis of the data that we hold. And our data, as Ryan alluded to earlier, comes from Uber Health Dialogue, and it basically analyses our data that comes from our hospital admissions that we pay for our veterans, our pharmaceuticals, etc. So we look at that, then analyse it to determine what risk we deem these veterans to have to be hospitalised in a certain period. Now we're looking for a particular range, so between like a risk rating of 50 to 85 at this point, and we're also looking at a particular age group, which is ideally not over 90 years old. And this is so that we've got strong enough data that we can prove an evaluation that this program's working. So on the data reports that you've got, you should have details there, your veterans, whether they're on the CVC program already or not. They will have to be on CVC, but it sounds like most of your practices are actually engaged with the program anyway, so you just have to make sure that those who aren't on CVC are now on CVC. We would want them to have one of 4 chronic conditions, not the 5. Pneumonia isn't one of the target conditions that we've got for telemonitoring, so it's one of the other 4, one or more of those other 4, and they're ideally within the risk and the age range that we're looking for. So what we recommend is you go through that list, you talk amongst your practice, you identify the doctors within your practice that want to be part of the trial and the veterans that you think would be good for that. And don't talk to the veterans at this point. We'd recommend you don't do that because we don't want to raise any expectations amongst the veteran community or individuals that they will get on the trial if we haven't actually approved them yet. Because if you identify these patients and then send this back to us, we will then go through with our data, give you a phone call and discuss the individual patients with you. Then we'll put up a recommendation just to say we think that 5 patients, 10 patients from your practice would be good for this trial. We'll get that approved and then get back to you as soon as we can. And at that stage, we'll give you a consent form, so then you would have a discussion with your veteran. You might even at that point update their healthcare plan to incorporate the telemonitoring component, so how often they should be checking their blood pressure at home or their temperature or whatever it is in relation to their care needs. And then we get you in touch with Tunstall. Tunstall organise the training to the practice and then installation and training for the veteran once they've consented to be part of the trial, which is basically filling out a consent form that we will send you. You fax that back to us, or email that back to us, and we go. Yeah, so that can happen within a matter of weeks. The sooner you get back to us, the sooner we can get it happening.
What colour is it here on the...
Here we've got green. Green and blue are quite similar in colour. Green are the people that are on CVC already.
Yes.
And that we think would be very suitable.
Okay.
The blue are not yet on CVC, but we think that they would be suitable.
Okay.
Just going by our stats.
Yeah.
Of course, you know a lot more about your patients than we do. And then the ones in the orangey area, then we have some issues around either whether they've got one of the chronic conditions,
Yeah.
whether they're outside of the age range or outside of the eligibility.
Sure.
And the eligibility, if they're below 50, we have some issues matching them with our control group for the evaluation purpose. And if they're above 90, yeah, or above 85, we want to make sure that they're well enough to to manage the equipment. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Yes, we've got. So we can hand these out if you would like, or we can leave them for you. We have this other information over here. For your information, there's one here which is payments. So this details. So like with the CBC program, we do recognise that this does take additional time away from the other things that you do in your practice. It does enhance care, but you will be investing some time to get trained up and also to check the readings regularly. Working within your practice, you might decide to do that on a daily basis, first thing in the morning, however it fits within your practice. But once you sign up and we confirm that you're on the trial and we confirm the veterans, we give you a $600 practice incentive payment, and that is a once-off to your practice to compensate that, and then a quarterly payment after that of $300. So that would be very consistent with your CBC payments on top of CBC. Yeah. So then, basically, it's a practice payment, and then for every veteran you have is $300 per quarter. So there's an information sheet about how the practice incentives work. There's another one, information for healthcare providers. If you've got any questions after tonight about how the trial works. There's also information for veterans and war widows that you might like to share with the veteran who starts to say you'd like to be part of the trial. And there's another assortment of information which Wayne was talking about in relation to DVA services, our mental health care services, our veterans and veterans family counselling services, which you may not be aware of, and a whole group of other things. Anyway, so I've got these here. I'm very happy to pass this around if it's. And please, if I haven't spoken to you already and you would like a data report,
with registration, you just take one per practice, because there's enough for everyone in the room, just one per practice.
So people can come up and have a
yes, please come up and have a play.
I'd just like to finish up by thanking all of you for coming, and also to the team, Ruth, Tracy, the writer William Gibson said, the future is here, it's just unevenly distributed. So it's really great to be in the spot where we can touch that.
Thank you very much.
Ken. Oh, sorry.